Actually, I went to graduate school at Indiana University,
Right.
and after I got my master's degree, I went to Northern Arizona as a graduate assistant coach.
Right.
And that would have, yeah. So, I mean, I did start my coaching as a volunteer at Indiana, and then I went out to Northern Arizona for a couple years as a grad assistant in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And then I went to Southeast Missouri State, TCU, and then back to NAU at about it was fall of 2007 is when I started full-time at NAU.
Right. Okay. 2007. All right. And then till 2016.
Yes.
So, awesome. So I'd say, like, coming from a college coach perspective, like, how are you able to, like, do your recruitment and recruit such a talented pool of athletes? Like, for example, I know in 2016 you guys had when you won NCAA championship, you had Futsum that was on the team, was a senior. You had Matthew Baxter that was a junior and that was already a really well decorated athlete in high school. Tyler Day that was a sophomore at the time, Andy Gerard, and some other great athletes that were on the team there. So, like, how was your recruitment done to get that talented pool of athlete?
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it was, having good contacts all over the world. I mean, Matt Baxter, I had a former athlete of ours, Ben Ashkettle, call me up and tell me about Matt. Said he watched him run, and he said, "Man, I know this guy's going to be an All-American." So, all the way down in New Zealand, having an Australian former, an alumni contact me, say, "Hey, you need to look at this guy." Futsum, same way. I had a friend that was living in Indianapolis, and he was following the high school scene. So he called me up and told me about Futsum's older brother, actually. So we recruited Futsum's older brother, Hollaby, to start. So that got us to know the family and to know Futsum earlier on. And then just, having good assistant coaches that were always out and about, making the phone calls. Flagstaff itself, Northern Arizona, really sold itself once we could get the students to campus. And if they were looking for a smaller atmosphere as opposed to a big Power 5 type of school, we ended up getting some good kids that really bought into cross country and track and field. And I think that helped.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I guess you did the same type of reasoning and the same type of like journey with the Lomong brothers, right? Because did you coach Lopez and then you got his brother as well?
Well, so I came my first year, fall of 07, ended up being Lopez's last season. So He ran cross country. I got to coach him there. Coach Hayes, John Hayes, had recruited him. And then right after that season is when he turned pro and signed with Nike. So yeah, I guess part of it was the fact that, Lopez knew about NAU. His brothers were in Virginia, and he wanted them to consider NAU. So we're able to recruit Peter out there.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So my next question is, I know in 2016 you guys won the NCAA Division 1 championships. So I feel like that's a question that a lot of people, and especially high school athletes, will love to get a little bit more like insights on that year and how their training was going, or maybe like in your years in the past. Like, is there like a specific workout that they did that really like blew your mind, where you were like, wow, that's crazy, like they're really in shape? I know for running it's more about consistency and like consistently getting good workout as opposed to one crazy workout, but is there something that like really blew your mind in the past years, that year, that you were like, okay, yeah, they're ready?
Yeah, well, that a part of what you said makes a lot of sense, and that is usually how I respond. Is that the thing that we noticed was everybody was healthy, and there's little sicknesses and little injuries here or there, but to get to the end of November and have everybody healthy, that was probably the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway. And I think we had a history of that too. So we usually get to the end of the year, and most of our guys would be healthy. So, but remembering that season, Coach Smith, who came in and took over the program, he and I watched a workout at the Buffalo Park where they were running 8 miles. And 10 guys averaged 5:12 pace up at 7,000 feet at Buffalo Park. And they just looked like they were jogging.
That's awesome.
And for us, we knew that for people to do 5:12 pace at 7,000 feet for 8 miles at Buffalo Park, we knew that was a really good indicator of where one, their fitness was, but their strength too. And that was something that I remember looking at each other and thinking, yeah, this is the team that can do something special.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. And yeah, like you said, like just when all the points align towards the end of the season, there's no injuries, there's no sickness. It's all about more like planning and like being ready when it matters, right? Not really
Mm-hmm.
peaking at the beginning of the season, being strong, but more like when it matters at the end, right?
Absolutely. That, and you get to the national championships, and sometimes when you have these huge expectations on you, the mental aspect of it can really overwhelm people. And the last couple of years, that team, anybody that came into the team would realize that, we're going to be competitive and we're going to push ourselves, but we're not going to take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And so I think that really helped.
Yeah. So is that a part of your training philosophy where like you get there, you don't put too much pressure on yourself when you can just like blow up mentally and like be too overwhelmed, and then just like kind of, is that like a part of your training philosophy or the way you approach things? Or
Yeah, I try to, because I was the exact opposite as an athlete. I would really push myself. I thought, well, the harder I can go, the more intense I am, the better I'm going to be. And I just, as I got older and looked back on my history, I started to realize I never performed at my best at the end of the year. And a lot of that was because I would push myself so hard early on. So it's a balance of that physical, being able to build the student athletes throughout the whole year, but then also giving them challenges and setting up pretty high expectations. I don't want it to sound like we don't have expectations or put any sort of pressure on us, but I do believe that putting those expectations that, they can get behind, they can be excited about it, and not something that it feels like it's unbearable.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it helps a lot of athletes enjoy the process as well and just have fun as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You got to enjoy. I mean, that's the thing is, college athletics should be pretty fun for the student athletes, getting to travel, getting to hang out. Very small percentage are going to move on and run professionally or compete professionally in any sport. So that's got to be a pretty fun 4 or 5 years for them.
Totally. There's the new program, University of St. Thomas in Houston. You already have a lot of history of success with the programs you've touched in the past, but now you have the opportunity to like build a program from the ground up. And I'm guessing you're going to approach it with the same philosophy as you did with the programs in the past. What's like a challenge currently? Like, do you have incoming recruits in September? Like, what's going on exactly, like with the program itself, especially like in these certain times, right?
Yeah. I think for everybody, we're dealing with our own types of challenges. And for myself, University of St. Thomas track and field specifically, the challenge was right as the track and field season was getting going, right where I was going to be able to get out to high school meets, meet some coaches, meet some student athletes in person. That's when everything started to shut down. Social distancing became a real thing. So that definitely had an impact. We've still been able to assign some kids to commit to be the first part of our program. And our, cross country coach, Ryan Donor, has done a really good job bringing in some women this upcoming year. So we'll have, 2 pretty good rosters. But like I said, the challenge was right when track and field was starting and we were going to be able to get out and start meeting some people. That's when we had to start to slow down and socially isolate. So the other thing is just getting the word out. And like I said, right about the time we were starting to meet coaches and get around to different meets in the Houston area, we weren't able to do that again. So I think that it's just going to be time, having a team actually compete, with the UST uniform on at some of the bigger meets around the Houston area and around Texas. That'll be good for us as well.
Yeah, just getting the word out, like you said. And in regards to, I guess you're probably used to recruiting with a Division 1 program, but then with a Division 3 program, you've probably had to adjust a little bit, maybe more specifically because Division 3 programs don't offer athletic scholarships. I know there's other bursaries and other financial aid that the school can give out, but how did you have to adjust to get athletes to come to your school when it's like really a different approach than Division 1, right?
Yeah, so I think the approach is very similar in terms of, finding the student athletes that meet your requirements in terms of athletics. So, maybe the standards for a distance runner or a sprinter coming to St. Thomas would be a little bit different than somebody coming to Northern Arizona or TCU. But once you find those student athletes that are in those those criteria that you're looking for. It's building relationships with them and with the coaches, finding out what the student athlete, kind of what makes them tick. Those things are pretty similar.
Right.
But then it's really encouraging student athletes to apply, because we have a free application at St. Thomas, and we're not going to know, what they're going to qualify for. So yeah, I could tell you, hey, I'll give you an athletic scholarship if I'm coaching D1 without even applying to school. Whereas I need a kid to apply, turn in their FAFSA so we can see what they qualify for academically and financial aid.
The first process.
Yeah.
They need to apply first, and then you see what they qualify for. So you can't really promise them anything before they apply.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, that makes sense. Awesome. Great. Then sweet. I had so many questions for high school. But I mean, what would you recommend, like a high school athlete right now that's, especially during coronavirus, like they probably couldn't prove some of their times this summer, so they need to use their times and their PRs from like last summer. Is there a way like coaches can, I mean, you can't really use a time trial, but like what if there was a video of a kid that ran a time trial? Like, would you use that as well? If there's like, I know there's a lot of high school athletes right now that are doing time trials and that are like filming it. Like, for example, there's been some high school athletes that even broke 4 in the mile recently this summer. And some of them just did it on the time trial basis. Would you approach athletes that have done only time trials this summer and don't really have that many good times last year, but now they're able to prove it on the track with a video or something? Would that work? Or
I think, yes, I do think that that's a good way to go about it for the upcoming class. And those those juniors, rising seniors now, that's definitely going to be tough on them. But I think that's one way to do it. Whether you're on the track or your field event, you can do some things right now and get a video and get it out to coaches, which I think that may, in the long run, may help these student athletes with their recruitment, because, sometimes with track, we have it so easy. We just look at the mark, how fast a kid ran, how far they threw, and then that's what we recruit. But a lot of times, if you go and look at a kid and you see that they've got potential, look at their form, or how much are they put into the weight room, or how, really how fast are they, out of the blocks, things like that. That can actually help, I think, with finding a kid that you really want on your team that you think can develop. Maybe they don't have the times or the marks, but you look at what they're doing and you know that they can develop over the next 4 years.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because some high schools, there's so many high schools out there. There's probably some that don't have the same facilities or the same coaches, or maybe there's a kid that has the potential to be really good, but doesn't have the same type of environment as others. But then you can like spot that on the video and be like, oh, I would really like to have that kid on my team, and I think we could do something amazing with them. So I guess that makes sense with what you're saying from the blocks, and it doesn't really, sometimes it's not only on paper, I'd say, like you're saying.
I mean, the other thing too is, having the high schoolers now, make sure that they're having those conversations with their high school coach, so that, because, the coach can go to bat for them as well, saying, hey, I know this kid didn't get to run the 100 meters very often during his junior year because we had to shut down, but, this is where I believe he's at. This is where I believe he can go. Those types of things that the high school coach can do are really going to be beneficial for him as well.
Right. So you'd say like high school coaches can actually help with the recruitment as well, like help their athletes and put them out there a bit more and have more like links with college coaches as well.
Yeah. And, it might even be something where, especially this year, and, a lot of high school coaches do it anyway, but, making sure that if that student athlete wants to compete in college, that they get their high school coach to write down a couple of things that they're strong at, a couple of things they need to improve on. And then that athlete can take it with them and give it to the high school coaches as they're trying to get recruited, or give it to the college coaches as they're trying to get recruited.
Yeah, exactly. Great. And then in regards to like NAU, most of the recruits you got there were word of mouth and people you knew. Did it happen that athletes would reach out to you as well, like send a bunch of emails or something?
Yeah.
Like, how would you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big variety. I mean, a couple of the young ladies that ended up having pretty good seasons and careers for us. I remember Kylie Gu filled out our online recruiting questionnaire, and myself and the assistant coach Leah at the same time were like, hey, this girl's run like 2:10 for the 800. We need to call her. She just randomly filled out our questionnaire. Yeah. Paige Gilchrist called my office phone, and I love this story because I answered my phone and she was caught off guard. She she didn't think a coach would answer their office phone.
Right. She just went for it and called, right?
Yeah. So we still joke about that, that Coach Heins actually answered his phone. She's like, I thought I was just going to leave a message and have him call me back or email me, and he actually answered. So, so those two young ladies, contacted us, reached out to us, and so yeah, I mean, it happens all kinds of ways that.
Right. So I guess these are athletes that maybe you wouldn't have contacted or recruited, but since they reached out, it all worked out, and they went to your school and had a great career there, right? So I think there's definitely multiple ways to get recruited, and it's not like the old like Prefontaine movie where you get like 30 letters coming in your house, and now there's multiple ways to do it, I'd say. Right. It makes sense.
Yeah. Obviously, those top end kids, they're going to get that stuff.
They're going to get letters, yeah. But then it's hard. Yeah, I guess in the States it's like that. For Canada, it's a bit different, where if you don't get that exposure, even if you're really fast, sometimes you might not even get letters. Like, for example, one of my friends ran 148 for the 800 in high school, and he was just like, oh, maybe I need to run faster because I haven't got any letters yet. But if you're like in a random city in Quebec and just not really getting noticed by any coaches in the States, it's pretty hard. And some high school athletes don't know that you have the option to also contact coaches on your end, and you can be proactive if you want to, right?
Right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Is there anything you wanted to add for like what you're looking for St. Thomas, or like, I don't know, it could be anything, but
yeah, well, I mean, that's, the thing that I've tried to impress the recruits is that we're really looking, even in the high school coaches too, is I'm not so caught up on their marks right now, is, really having good kids that want to work hard, that want to get better and come to be part of a program that they can help build. That's really been important to us, finding those types of student athletes that are hungry to get better, be part of a new program, and see this thing grow as they grow with it.
So would you say there's like a little something extra where it's not really like linked to your athletic ability per se, but like a little bit more leadership maybe coming in your team? Like maybe if you have a good captain that like leads the team well, like I don't know how it worked at NAU, if you had a captain, if like there was a leader in the team, or like how they grew as a person as well. But maybe you're trying to look for these types of athletes as well, and it's not like only about their athletic abilities.
Yeah, so with that, I approach it a little bit different, that, I want the leadership to kind of happen organically, and I've never I have in the past, but I didn't usually name a captain over my last few years at NAU. And, I kind of felt like I was a leader, and then, I'd find student athletes that I knew kind of who I could talk to about certain aspects, or who would go and be the person that was going to get everybody on the bus on time. And I think those things kind of happen organically. So yeah, I mean, as you're talking to recruits, trying to find kids, there's great kids that don't want to deal with that at all. They want to show up, and they want to be quiet, and they want to do their job, and they're going to be a great teammate, but they're not going to be the one to step up and be real vocal, and that's fine. But like I said, I don't necessarily name someone. If I see a kid that can grow in that aspect, encourage them to be that way, then I'll do that.